Being 7 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Bospis.
Here.
Commissioner Baker. Here. Commissioner Collins.
Here.
Commissioner Gary.
Here.
Commissioner Miller.
Here.
Commissioner Talentino.
Here.
Commissioner Twardy. Here.
Okay, we're all here. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I would ask those with cell phones, if they would please put them on vibrate or turn them off, we would appreciate it. And then I understand we have a couple of special guests with us tonight, a couple of youth that have been working at the slide. And if Commissioner Baker would like to introduce them, they just want to talk a little bit about how it's going.
We've got two of our newest volunteers that came on the second day, and they haven't left yet. They've put in over 35 hours, I think, each individually. So we've got Marcus Galladay and Aaron Oxton, and then Adam Gurnall will come up and they'll give you a little rundown on how things have been going.
Welcome.
Thank you. Like I said, my name is Adam Gurnall. This is Marcus and Aaron. They've been two of our best volunteers that we've had so far at the event. So just to give you guys a little update, so as you guys know, we're running the Slip and Slide up at Minneapolis Hill. It's a fundraiser that is supporting the Malcolm Park Pride Kickball Extravaganza. It's an effort from the Maloney's Homies team, but we're allowing any of the teams to come up and volunteer and help raise money for their teams. So we've been open for approximately a week, and we've raised about $4,354.
Great.
It's been through efforts of the fundraiser, selling tickets, wristbands, things like that, as well as donations. We've had over 250 riders. They've ranged from ages 5 to about 65. We had one grandma go down, and she just loved it. It was pretty hilarious, actually. So going forward, we're hoping that all the feedback that we're getting from the riders, like everyone loves it, it's going to make its way throughout the community, and we'll see continued usage and support. We also have plans to host group events. So we've already sold 100 wristbands to the Sioux Little League, and then we have the JKL Summer School coming up this week on Wednesday. And then I was just contacted actually right before the meeting about more Sioux Tribe youth that are going to be coming up as a group. So we've also created a Facebook page, and I'd like to invite everyone to like it. It's called Minneapolis Hill Slide, and so we're posting any updates, like, you know, we had rain the other day, so we had to close down early. But we'll have hours, we'll post pictures and hilarious videos and things like that. So if anyone wants to like that, follow that, share it, it's Minneapolis Hill Slide. So this event has been run solely by volunteers. We've had groups come up like the Sioux High JV baseball team, teachers from Bowading School, and then just a bunch of individuals who have come up. And these two in particular have done actually about 70 hours combined between the two of them. And then total we've had 525 hours for volunteers so far. And we've been really lucky to have these two. They really help us out, and it's just been really great to have them up there. Also, I'd like to thank the Commission for supporting us and doing the fundraiser in the first place, allowing us to use the Minneapolis Hill. It's a great location. Like the decline is perfect. All the kids really, really love it. And then also to the DPW and Parks and Rec Department for help getting us set up. We would not have been able to do it without them because there's a lot of hoses that have to be connected up there. Also, thank you to Mayor Bospis, who came out to our event and was wishing us well and saw the event. And City Manager Oliver Turner, he came up with his kids and allowed us to record him going down the slide, and it was pretty hilarious. And if you go on the Minneapolis Hill slide page, you can see that video. Yeah, so that was really awesome. And I would like to invite the rest of the Commission to come out and see the event, and also, you know, you guys can see how fun it is, maybe ride the slide, and then spread the word, so that way we can really do our best to raise as much money as we can for Malcolm Park. And I would like to especially thank Commissioner Baker. She's been at the Hill every day, as well as me. She's been there getting down and dirty, setting up the hoses, setting up all the slides, and really supporting all the volunteer efforts. Even if you're there for an hour or there for 70 hours like these guys, she's there encouraging everyone. She's been a really great example of volunteerism and civil service for the community, and it's been a really great fundraiser so far. So do you guys have any questions about the slide or anything?
How much longer? Is that?
It's till September 1st.
Oh, September 1st?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and we are basically we tried to say that we'll go Sunday through Wednesday every week, but with weather changing,
Sure.
you know, like we weren't open today, but we will be open later in the week because it's supposed to be beautiful. So
Okay.
that's why we created the Facebook page too, to kind of update the community.
Are the
so they
rates
know.
the same as you talked about?
Mhm.
Okay, okay. Why don't you tell us what those are?
What was that?
The rates to go down the slide?
Oh, so you can buy individual rides, just one ticket, and it's $1 per ride, or you can buy wristbands that will give you unlimited rides for $15. But if you come in a group of 4, so a family of 4, we'll reduce the rate to $10 per person.
Okay,
Or any group, really. So if you come with a group of friends, we'll allow you the group rate as well.
okay. Excellent. Commissioner Twardy?
Yeah, just a comment. I work 7 days a week, so that I haven't been able to come up there. But I saw today that you had the Coast Guard Wives up there, Coast Guard Wives group. And it seems like I'm only seeing like positive feedback from it. And I think it's great that the Wadding Ballers were able to fundraise for their group too. So keep going. Good job, guys.
Yeah, these guys have been really awesome.
Yeah.
Taking some of the burden off us.
Anyone else? Well, thank you very much for the report,
Thank
Andy.
you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, young men and women, for your volunteering.
Future Main Street volunteers.
Yes, and rest of the volunteers for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Item C is a public comment, and any person can comment on the agenda item up to 3 minutes. And some of it is public hearing, which you'll have a chance during the meeting. But if it's not a public hearing and you'd like to comment on the agenda item, if you'd like to let us know right now your name, then when we get to that item, we will introduce you and give you a chance to speak. Yes, ma'am.
Sharon Johnson, and I'd like to speak on F3.
F3. Is that the? Okay. Sue Brewing. Okay. Sure. Did you have her name? Okay. Yes, sir.
Yes, Ray Bauer, and I'm here to answer any questions in regards to F3.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Item number D, consent agenda. Assistant City Manager Troyer, please.
Under the consent agenda, 1, approval of the City Commission meeting minutes of July 16, 2018. Item 2, approval of the City Commission meeting minutes of July 23, 2018. Item 3, approval of the Airport Advisory Board meeting minutes of June 14, 2018. Item 4, approval of the Community Services Board meeting minutes of July 27th and July 31st, 2018. Item 5, approval of the Tree Commission meeting minutes of June 19th, 2018. Item 6, approval of the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting minutes of June 21st, 2018. Item 7 is to accept Ken LaJoy's resignation from the Historic Structures Management Committee. Item 8 is approval to apply for a National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant for the Carbide Dock and Alfred Park waterfront. Item 9, approval of Police Command Unit Public Employee Health Care Plan, PEHP, participation agreement. Item 10, designation of official Bicycle Advisory Committee and Bicycle Advocacy Committee. Item 11 is from the Michigan Municipal League, designation of delegates for the annual business meeting. Item 12 is approval of the consent agenda items.
Okay, thank you. Is there a commissioner who would like something further explained on the consent agenda at this time? Or anyone to make a comment? Commissioner Twardy.
I so move that we approve the consent agenda.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Mayor Bosbus,
Yes.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins,
Yes.
Commissioner Gary,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino,
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Item E, special orders of business. 1, public hearing of necessity for West 8th Avenue from Ryan Avenue to Meridian Street, project ST-02-18.
Okay, thank you very much. City Manager Turner.
Thank you, Mayor. On this matter, I've requested that City Engineer Basista address the City Commission.
Okay. Evening, Linda.
Good evening, Mayor, Commission. As you know from the previous meeting, you set this date as the date to hear comments regarding the necessity of the project of West 8th Avenue, reconstruction of West 8th Avenue between Meridian and Ryan Street. The proposal is to reconstruct the street and repave the entire length as discussed when we set the hearing. We did have a public information meeting. 3 property owners attended. Questions were answered, and there's some things, we like to have the public information meeting prior to the public hearing so that we can answer questions or correct any errors that might be presented in their calculation for the assessment. In this case, the project would be a special assessment that has 3 components. One would be, the first component would be assessed to all the property owners, which would be a $17 per lineal foot front footage. This is different than even 4th Avenue that was $20 a lineal foot, or previous CSO projects that were $40 a lineal foot, mainly because this road is not curb and guttered in its drainage ditches. So that reduces the overall cost and benefit to the property owners. Then driveway culverts, we will be replacing driveway culverts. Those are assessed to the property owners based on actual culvert length. And some property owners have the opportunity, some have 2 driveways. They might want just one. One property owner has indicated that they might eliminate one of their driveways to reduce their costs, and it's a driveway they say they don't need. Others are expanding their driveways, and so this offers them the flexibility to do their driveway as they want, but it's a direct expense to the property owner. And in this case, we're only charging for the actual culvert and installation, not the backfill, and not the reconstructing of the driveway. However, there is a third component that affects only a couple property owners, and that is if they have a driveway that is currently gravel. Our standard and ordinance say that drive approaches must be hard surfaced, and so if they have a driveway that is gravel, it was more than likely put in without a permit under normal circumstances where we would have required them to put in a hard surfaced driveway. So they will pay for the just the hot mix, the asphalt for the driveways that are currently gravel. So tonight you would be hearing comments, and then there's a resolution before you that would direct us to prepare the project for construction, and then we would set the public hearing for setting the roll. The schedule for the project would be to advertise for bids this month, receive bids September 11th, and then we will calculate the assessments based on the actual bid prices for the second and third components, and send out the notices to the property owners, and proposing for the hearing, the roll hearing, to be held at the first meeting, first City Commission meeting in October, which would be October 1st. And at that meeting, you would also award the construction contract. Due to the timing and we would be proposed to be constructing as early as possible in the spring of 2019. The total assessments being assessed to the property owners is just over $23,000, and the total project estimate at this time is $377,000. And so therefore the city at large is paying 93% of the project. That's because half of the road length, about half, is part of Malcolm Park, and so city-owned property, but also the city normally picks up the lion's share of the project costs.
Any questions? City Manager. Let's go to City Manager first.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for that presentation, City Engineer, and for the input from property owners. Just for the for posterity, to recap the recommended actions at this time for consideration by the City Commission. First would be to conduct the public hearing of necessity. The second would be to approve the second resolution ordering public improvements, and then the third would be to schedule a public hearing to confirm the special assessment roll for 7 p.m. on Monday, October 1st for West 8th Avenue, the project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Collins.
Yeah, so the last time that we went through this, we talked about having some sort of crosswalks or speed bumps going through between the fields, so for pedestrian safety, because that's why we were talking about before leaving it gravel, because that would slow people down. At what point, or I guess in the process, at what point do we see that as far as discussion on that?
City Manager.
Thank you, Commissioner. I would defer to the City Engineer on that question.
Okay.
Okay, so speed bumps are, due to plowing and so forth, are basically out of the question here. It's just not a practical issue. We can consider some enhancements as far as pedestrian crossings, like the rectangular rapid flash beacons, or just even an enhanced crosswalk, painted crosswalk. I don't have any of that in this project at this time, because it's really not dependent, doing the project doesn't depend on that. And I would like further input as far as where things are going to be. I know that Malcolm Pride, as you saw, is raising money to make a lot of improvements, and so I'd really like to see where that crossing is going to take place before we install any permanent items for traffic calming or for pedestrian safety.
I'm sorry, I must have misunderstood, because I thought that when we talked about it last time, that was part of the kind of the arrangement as far as when we decided to pave the whole thing versus leaving half of it gravel still. So I just want to know in the process, I guess, because that was something we had talked about. I know for me, I mean, I like the idea of the whole thing being paved, but I also want to make sure that, you know, the kids are safe going back and forth between the fields.
I would think the traffic calming is a good idea, but if a paving, and I remember some discussion about the speed bumps and the and because of paving, I think that kind of went by the wayside. But we certainly can do some other enhancements in the area, even the children playing signs or crosswalk signs that aren't flashing, but are like the school sign that's that green color. If we can do something like that eventually, once, like you said, with Malcolm Pride and where the crosswalk would be, but it would be in that area near the Ball Diamond entrances, I would think, on both sides.
The main item for traffic calming is the more activity there is around a roadway, the slower people will go. If you just look at, especially the 100 block of East Portage, that's really tight. There's always a lot of cars. There's always a lot of pedestrians. And but if we did a speed study, it would show that that's the slowest moving traffic we have in town. And so when the ball fields are being utilized, there's cars, there's people, and that just will naturally slow people down. But to install signs that are only effective for on the occasions when the ball fields are being used, people just tend to overlook signs. And the main thing is getting kids to cross where they should be crossing and highlight that as much as possible. So,
Anyone else? Commissioner Twardy.
Comment too, because we're all certainly hoping that the pavilion will hopefully be completed next year, and a lot of it's going to depend on location of the pavilion and where you are going to try and direct that crossing traffic. So you're saying we can always come back a year, even after the completion of the project, and take a look and go, okay, where should we really be focusing on
absolutely.
painted crosswalks?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Baker.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of coordinating with the Malcolm Park Pride Committee. From my understanding, the pavilion will go somewhere near Losee Field, in between Losee and James Field. So as far as crosswalks on 8th Avenue, If the fields aren't getting displaced, which I don't think there's any plan of doing that at this time, just right across, I think would be, even like you said, painting a crosswalk just to give some sort. Because right now, I think people drive more slow on it because of the road itself that creates its own speed bump, kind of, so to speak. But just from being up there as often and seeing the kids running around, having something there, but down the road is.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. At this time, we'll hold the public hearing of necessity for West 8th Avenue, Ryan Avenue to Meridian Street, ST-02-18. Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to make a comment at this time? Okay, hearing none, we will close the public hearing. City Commission. So Commissioner Baker.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the second resolution ordering the public improvement and schedule.
No, that would be one motion
One
and then
motion?
a
Okay.
second motion after that. Is there support? It's been moved, supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino?
Yes.
Commissioner Tuorty?
Yes.
Mayor Bospis?
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you. Commissioner Baker?
Make a motion to schedule a public hearing to confirm the special assessment rule for 7 p.m. on Monday, October 1st, 2018 for West 8th Avenue, Ryan Street to Meridian Street, ST-02-18.
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino?
Yes.
Commissioner Tuorty?
Yes.
Mayor Bospis?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Item F, Communications. One from the Community Services Board, approval of youth recreation program funding for fiscal year 18-19.
Okay, thank you very much. City Manager Turner.
Thank you, Mayor. On this matter, I've requested that Parks and Recreation Director Wires present to the Commission and Community.
Okay. Evening, Dan.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Youth Recreation Program funding. From all that I can gather, this is a process that the city has had, I want to say, back in the 1980s. It's been at least that time. And because the city doesn't have a recreation programming component, the Recreation Department has offered this type of funding through the City Commission, and it has all gone through the Community Services Board. And this year is the amount that was budgeted for was $40,000. To give a little bit of a background on this, it's something that the city has done. The Community Services Board has spent a lot of labor and time over the years. Committee members have come, committee members have gone, and one of the items that they did, I want to say at least 10 years ago, is they put out a mission statement, and we have all this information that we give to all of the community members, the organizations, and it's the youth program funding goals, and it's really to focus on the efforts of youth recreation program funding, allocations for each organization in a fair and objective manner. And I could go through the whole list of them and read them to you, from utilize unbiased and objective criteria, from the monies and the dollars that they spend to keep it as local as possible. There's a lot of the criteria, and a lot of the organizations, they all do this. In recent years, we also put together a general policies, guidelines, agreement, and commitment. And this talks about policy for youth recreation program funding recipients, how we, the city, deal with this. It's a reimbursement type. It's like a grant. It gets reimbursed. They spend. And obviously, it's a recommendation that comes from the Community Services Board to the City Commission, which you have before you this evening as well. The nonprofit status, audit, bylaws, they all now have, and this is, I want to say, Commissioner Tuorty brought this to the Community Services Board 3-4 4 years ago, a community service commitment. It's kind of a component of their receiving the funds. And, you know, we're asking from the city that we encourage them to continue city beautification efforts, whether it be through our city beautification cleanup day or also some time when they can get out there and clean our community and do some things. I think one year Little League did Malcolm Park. Putting the city logo on their registration forms, giving the city credit, getting the dollars that they get gives credit back to the city. So there is a general policy guidelines agreement, and the one final agreement is a reimbursement agreement. And this was, I believe, the city attorney Cannell drafted this probably at least 10 years ago, was the fact that they undertake a responsibility that the city does not have. Because we don't provide recreation programming services. These individual organizations do that, and there's 10 of them that we have that came for funding this year. So it's a reimbursement program. A little background with the way we get this out. It's on our city website. We do email all the participants. People do call in by many means. We get the information out to them. And one of the things that we just streamlined this a couple of years ago, the Community Services Board had 2 applications, one for 1,000 and under and one for 1,000 and over. More information is needed for 1,000 and over, and it kind of helps streamline some of that process because some of the organizations, quite frankly, are very small and they're not asking for a whole lot of funding. So it's done through our city website, through email, the applications. They all do come. The folks that do submit an application, and all the applications I believe you did get in your packet, they do come to the Community Services Board. They give a 5 to 10 minute presentation, and when you have 10 of them, and they'd all like to take at least a half hour or more, you know, they tend to try to get a lot of information out, and it's one of the requirements. They have to give a presentation to the Community Services Board because really the Community Services Board asks a lot of very, very, very good questions, and they try to dig into from their programming aspect to what they provide. Sometimes they're new, sometimes they're an older organization. Sometimes it's the same organization who's been here for many years, but new leadership. So some things change and the organizations change as well. One thing I do want to bring to the City Commission's attention, and I know it's in your packet as well, is that I believe, and from that I'm aware of, the Girls and Boys Club did get displaced. They were located in town. They are at the Malcolm School, and with the reorganization of Sault schools, they did reorganize, and they're reorganized at the old Sioux Township Elementary School out on M129, so they're actually physically located outside the city. But their commitment to the Community Services Board, and they have shared with them that their service model, although it's changed, their service delivery model includes city-based students. And they're working directly with the Eastern Upper Peninsula Transit Authority to work on transportation and those types of things, so that they are located outside of the city, but again, there's city students that they say will be utilizing their program, and the Community Service Board felt comfortable with that as well to fund them. And you know, use a little bit of to kind of qualify that a little bit. We have a lot of organizations within the city that are located that service, that go outside the city. For instance, the Sioux Area Little League, it's Area Little League. They play Pickford, they play in Dafter, they play in different communities, but they're based in the Sioux. So with their organization change, that's why they ended up moving out. The school district is still partnering with them to give them some space out there. So that's just a little bit of a brief overview. There's 10 organizations in front of you. I'm sure they are all worthy, and the Community Service Board spent quite a bit of time on this as well. So just if there's any questions, certainly.
Right. Before we go to questions, let's go to the city manager.
Certainly appreciate that overview by Director Wires of the intensive work completed by the Community Services Board in recommending funding allocations. It's a very active board, and they've undertaken a great deal of work recently. The City Commission, in regards to an entity such as the Girls and Boys Club or Boys and Girls Club outside of the city, would have options, and one of the discussion points I've had with Director Wires would be that as this is a reimbursement mechanism type of funding, that prior to issuing reimbursements, that city administration could confirm and perform extra due diligence to ensure that city residents are being served through the program.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Gary.
I think this is a great process, and I know having 4 kids in town that have utilized services of 6 of the 10, I just looked. This brings up the everlasting question, I guess, about this is Sault Ste. Marie taxpayer money, and we're subsidizing the out-of-town kids, which we really don't, we don't have a problem with typically, but I guess it's coming to the point where, and I don't blame them, but I think we need to make some arrangements with the townships or the counties to assist in some of these ventures. Because this is a line item out of the general fund, and it is completely 100% on the back of the Sioux, Michigan property taxpayers. We've been doing it for a long time, and I believe in it, and I believe in our youth, and I believe they need to have this stuff, but there's got to be some equity in this payment. And I don't know where we go from that, and I know we've been talking about it for years, and we started talking about splitting it out so we could count the kids. And I looked at some of these organizations. Some of them have 1/3 Sault Ste. Marie kids, 2/3 out of town. So I think some of the taxpayers probably gonna have an issue with that. Where do we go? I guess I'm not happy with the formula anymore.
Let me say that discussions have been ongoing with the Chippewa County Board representatives, and we talked specifically about getting involved in some of the recreational things that we do, because we service both, as Commissioner Gary says, both entities, out of town and in town children for the most part. And it's an excellent point, and I know we've talked about it every year. It comes up for the most part. Commissioner Bill Munsell used to. We wanted written confirmation of I think at one time how many students each has. I don't know if you still require that.
We do ask that, yes.
And so you have some idea of how many are local, how many are out of town, type of thing. But it would be nice if we could break the ice with the county and see if. And I know they've been asked the question, and we're going to follow up with that, because we were talking about a pool just recently. We sent that back to the, as you all know, we sent that back to the schools, public schools and intermediate school district to try and come up with a formula type of thing, and take the lead on it. So that will continue to be the case going forward. But it's a great program, and again, it does fall on the backs of the city residents to fund it totally. So and I don't see anything changing this year, but things have moved. I think there is some progress, and we have people listening. Hopefully they'll do more than listen, and that'll just take more communication, I think. Commissioner Tuardi, and then we'll go to Commissioner
Thank
Baker.
you.
And did you have your hand up? Okay.
Yeah, I would support discussions like that. It's the city taxpayers that currently own and continue to operate the facilities, and so it would be great if the county did get on board and start helping out with supporting all the kids in the county. It is always it's the most exciting day of the year for the Community Services Board, and that was one of the things that Chairman Miners and I said to the board that morning. We're like, this is a great day. I mean, we get to support youth recreation within the city of Sault Ste. Marie, and they come to us with the numbers, and specifically talking about the Boys and Girls Club. Last year alone, they had close to 75 kids from the city of Sault Ste. Marie that were going on a daily basis to utilize that program. So I think that's why the Community Services Board really felt passionate about it. They didn't want to cut any funding from there, because a lot of times you're talking about children that don't have anywhere else to go. And you want them to have a safe place where they can go and get some mentoring, and hopefully look for a brighter future and not get into trouble. So whether it comes back with supporting transportation, getting the children out there, or where the program funding goes to, I still think it's at least important to continue to take a look at that program if it is serving the kids within our city limits. But I would support discussions moving forward with the county afterwards also. Thank you.
Would you like to make a motion so we
I
can?
would love to make a motion, yeah. And then you can talk.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the distribution of funds to various youth recreation organizations as presented.
Support.
Commissioner Baker.
Okay, so as far as the money being allocated, one of my questions, like I saw how they each had kind of a breakdown of how they were planning on spending their money. And I'm assuming you say it's kind of like a grant, so they bring in the receipts for these things. I guess my concern is to make sure that they're spending the money the way that they say that they're spending the money, and to make.
Commissioner, that's a very good question. And I apologize for not mentioning that, each of the organizations gave a priority list of all the different items and things that they would like. Some of them only had one. Like Sioux Michigan Hockey and Hiawatha Skating Club wanted ice credits, ice time. Some of them had 3, some of them had 7. The recommendation from the Community Services Board is that the dollars that they would spend, approving it from the commission, would be on those priority items. Once it was approved, then they would give receipts back, and it would have to fit into the priority item. It could not be something that is not on the prioritization item. But now that being said, there are situations where, for instance, one of the groups was going to buy some soccer goals or something like that. It might have been the soccer or something, and someone donated the goals. So they kind of redirected it and they ended up doing something where they put it towards a piece of equipment for the field as well. So it pretty much stays on focus with that, but there is times when they may come back to the Community Service Board with something that happens because they have no control if someone donates something.
But it would come back to the board, though.
It would come back to the Community Service Board, and it's all reimbursable, all by receipts, so we would not submit it if it's not on there.
Okay, Commissioner Talentino,
yeah,
sorry, Commissioner Baker?
Sorry. And you said 10 of the organizations
Yes.
applied this year? Was there more people that applied, or was it just these 10?
Just these 10 applied and did give a presentation. Most of the time, the ones who apply, and it's kind of a rule of thumb in a sense, anybody who applies normally gets dollars. Very few times did they not get anything. Doesn't mean they couldn't. So there was only 10, so it's like there wasn't an 11th or a 12th that didn't get anything. So these are...
I would just like to, in the future, I think that, I know that you said you put it out on the city website and stuff, but it could be marketed a little bit better, so I think more people are aware of it. I didn't know that we did this until I became a commissioner as a city with $40,000, and that's a lot of money. And from looking at past years, it seems like the same kind of groups are getting the piece of the 40, and which is fine because they're the only ones applying for it. But I think if other organizations were aware of it, they'd be applying as well. So just to think about that in the future.
Yeah, some do inquire and they decide not to. Some have come and gone, like AAU girls basketball came for a couple of years, then their organization changed. The swimming group from the high school, they used to come and they used to get funding. So it kind of comes and goes a little bit, but it's a good question.
Okay. Commissioner Talentino.
Being a first time, approving the monies on the Community Service Board as a newer commissioner, I think reading these applications in this agenda item was it was an eye opener for me. It's amazing how many out of town children we have that do utilize these monies, and I think it is going to be very important that we visit something in the future as far as the cash flow on that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Just a comment on the Girls and Boys Club, is there a stipulation in there that they come back to the city manager or city administration with the number of students before the receipts taken care of? City manager?
Thank you, Mayor. This is something that city administration could handle at the administrative level. However, there's also the option if the commission desires to return it to the commission for final approval.
I don't know that that's necessary as long as it's part of the stipulation.
Just to give a little more background on that, their program, I believe, is somewhat, I'm not sure, they're going to be starting back up this fall. And so I would think sometime by October into the first part of November, we'd be able to find out what their numbers are.
Any other questions or comments? We have support and motions more. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino?
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy?
Yes.
Mayor Bosmus?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Thanks, Dan.
Item 2 under communications is from Smith Sanitation, residential waste collection agreement assignment.
Okay, thank you. City Manager Turner.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Jim Smith with Smith Sanitation and Blue Waters Recycling has informed the city there is a pending sale of Smith Sanitation to GFL Green for Life Environmental, Inc. A communication from Mr. Smith regarding this matter has been included. Additionally included is the existing agreement and an associated extension. Provision 6 of the agreement provides that the contractor shall not assign this contract any interest therein or any privilege or right granted without the written consent of the Commission of the City of Sault Ste. Marie first had and obtained, and then only to a corporation approved by said Commission and subject to such terms and conditions as said Commission may require. Mr. Smith is requesting that the City Commission approve the assignment of the existing agreement to GFL Environmental. Mr. Smith has also indicated to the City the only change for customers will be the name on and the color of the collection trucks. According to Mr. Smith, who would continue to manage the business locally, GFL Environmental would honor the existing contract in its current form, retaining the tag system and current office location. Deputy City Manager Troyer has reached out to several communities serviced by GFL Environmental. Her outreach documented that GFL is a responsive, flexible company and that communities generally maintained an 8 to 10 year contract with either fixed pricing or annual increases based on consumer price index. That GFL also has strong engagement with the public and that it's a community partner during certain events. Most communities had direct local customer service for residents. However, a couple of communities which have been with GFL for a longer term have transitioned to a call center which was noted as being challenging for residents. Overall, all communities expressed a smooth transition to GFL and a positive working relationship. Accordingly, it would be my recommendation that the City Commission approve the assignment of the existing agreements with Smith Sanitation to GFL Environmental. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Commissioner Talentino.
Sure. I'd like to make a motion to approve the assignment and the existing agreement with Smith Sanitation Incorporated to GFL Environmental Incorporated.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Are there any questions? Commissioner Gary.
Well, since they just gave $750,000 to SR Center to rename the building, do you think they'd be interested in the pull it?
I seen that. Could be a nice gesture. We're in no hurry yet. Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino,
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy,
Yes.
Mayor Bosmas,
Yes.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins,
Yes.
Commissioner Gary.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Delman.
Item 3 is from Sioux Brewing Company, request for private use agreement for Portage Avenue Sidewalk Cafe.
Okay, thank you. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. On this matter, DDA Director Nepper will present to the City Commission.
Evening, Justin.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. Quick background. Over the past few years, the Downtown Development Authority has been transitioning into what's called a Michigan Main Street model of management. One of the big things that we had to do as a Downtown Development Board over the last year and a half as we became a Main Street community was pick what they called a transformation strategy, an economic development transformation strategy for downtown. We did a bunch of community outreach and downtown businesses, downtown property owners. A lot of people were engaged, and we narrowed it down to 3 areas of economic development strategy. One was health and wellness, one was entertainment, and one was tourism. And the Downtown Development Board and all the different people were involved chose entertainment as where we were going to really focus in our downtown economic development transformation strategy over the next few years, looking at everything from our nightlife scene, our restaurant scene, of course our theater, all the different various activities and events, and that's really something that's been important to the downtown as we look at how we're progressing and where we're going. And one of the big things, of course, that many great downtowns have is outdoor seating, outdoor cafes. And a few years ago, as many of you know, the Palace Restaurant Saloon was one of the first that expanded their liquor license to have outdoor seating on a public sidewalk out front. And that was something that the city worked through and the downtown development worked through a few years ago. There was a lot of conversations since then. As many of you know, we do have outdoor seating in front of many other restaurants and cafes, but a lot of them are not connected with expanded liquor licenses. Liquor licensing requires some sort of enclosure, and traditionally it's been some sort of fencing. And so that was something that Ray Bauer from Sault Brewing Company approached me on a few months ago. We started talking about it, and he began the process of applying for that. And so tonight we're here to talk about, is that picture up? There it is. The area that he's currently been working on, and this gives you an idea of how it's set up. As you can see, we spent a lot of time working on measurements and making sure that there was clearance for both pedestrians, people with ADA issues, wheelchair access. 5 feet is the minimum requirement, and we had to spend a fair amount of time, and Ray spent quite a bit of time looking at how the light poles were laid out. You can see there's about 6 feet 6 inches on the light pole closest to us in the photo, 5 feet clearance along the fence to the curb, and then almost 12-foot clearance as you get to the next light pole. So that is within compliance from everything that I have researched and with help from the city engineer's office. And it's been, so far, I think, kind of being tested for the last couple weeks as we get paperwork in place. And from everything that I can see, it's been a really great addition to downtown. There has been definitely some concerns just because it's new and a little bit challenging in terms of people getting used to how things look, I think, on the sidewalk. But I was out there the other day talking to tourists while we were doing the Paint the Pavement project, and the amount of people who were engaging, tourists walking by asking, where do I go to eat? Where's a good place to sit? Is this a great place to come in? There's so many different people that were, it gives you as a pedestrian and as a customer and as a business owner or property owner, a great way to network and connect with people in a much different way than you normally would. So, and of course, I think many of us have sat in maybe other communities or even here in outdoor seating and enjoyed it. So it's something that I think as downtown manager we want to see happen. Our sidewalk width is definitely, because our streetscape is older from I'd say the early 90s, our sidewalk widths are not as wide as I would like them to be. If we redesign in the future, when our ship comes in, I would love to see our sidewalks be definitely a little bit wider and allow for more interaction, more accessibility on the sidewalks. But any questions or thoughts on it so far?
Okay, thank you. Let's go to the city manager, and then we have some other folks that want to speak. Okay.
And just a note to contribute to that presentation, which I appreciate, from Director Nepper. If you've determined anything different from your research, please correct me. But right now, the proposed action would be to develop and execute, authorize administration to develop and execute the private use agreement, which would permit seating to be left out overnight under the existing ordinance provisions. It can currently be left out from 6 a.m. until 10 p.m.
Yes, I'm sorry, I forgot about the action that we were encouraging. The current ordinance does allow for any business to have I think it's as long as your business is open, for you to have outdoor displays, outdoor furniture. A lot of that has to be brought in. So the private use agreement that the city offers, I believe it's a $150 fee and a form that the property owner completes, who is applying, or the business owner, and that does allow for what I would describe as seasonally permanent installations. Of course, this will be coming up in the winter to allow for sidewalk plowing. But otherwise, the fencing would be, affixed into the sidewalk with some sort of bolts, something that allows the property owner to not have to pull it in and out every single day. It's just very unrealistic for that to happen, and so this allows for the business to really fully utilize it for the season.
Okay, thank you. Let's hear from the people that wanted to speak, and I think it was Ms. Johnson. Would you come to the microphone, please?
Since it's a request for permission to put it there, having me speak before he requests doing it is.
Well, so the request is,
before the card.
you were first is why you got your chance.
Okay.
But the request is already here.
Okay.
Okay.
I see no need for obstructing traffic. Yes, a wheelchair can get through there. Opposing traffic cannot come through. And the reason that I came was because I met a mother with a baby carriage who, by God, she was taken the right away. And as an older person who walks holding on to his arm so I stay walking, We had to step aside over into what would be the curb area.
If we could
There
have
are
the picture
5
back up.
bars on that street, in that block. If every one of them go out that far into the sidewalk, it's an obstacle course to go down through there. Not only that, you're setting out in the heat and humidity, which I grant we don't get a lot of it up here, but you don't need to be drinking beer setting out in the sun. It's not healthy. Move it to the back, closer to the fire department, so the rescue squad can get there faster. And it's out of sight. The Palace Saloon does not interfere with people walking on Portage. It's tucked on the side. This is strictly for profit. Put out some benches for people to sit down and rest. It's more welcoming to the community. If you want entertainment, put something downtown that is family friendly. There's nothing for families coming here to do with their kids other than the locks that is right close to downtown. And those kids, when they grow up and go to bring their families back, will remember the Sioux didn't have anything for us to do. Our parents could sit out on the street. And I wonder about the term cafe. What is served that fits under the term cafe? The Liquor Commission doesn't require a cafe to be fenced. When they're closed, it's still an obstruction. It is constantly. And the cobblestone throws people off balance who have any visual or mobility issues at all. That's an irregular surface, especially if you're meeting somebody else and they're looking here, there, everywhere as they do. It's inconsiderate for it to be there.
Ma'am, if you'd like to just introduce yourself, just for the record, we'd appreciate it.
Sharon Johnson.
Sure. Thank you very much.
I signed my letter, put my name and phone number and the address that I live at on the letter that went to you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Bauer. You can introduce yourself for the record, we appreciate it.
Sure. My name is Ray Bauer. I'm the owner of Sault Brewing Company. And what Mrs. Johnson said, actually, wow. I was not coming here prepared for any of that. For one thing, I'm certain you've never been in Sault Brewing Company, because if you ever have been, you would know that it is a very family-friendly atmosphere. We have games the kids play. We have coloring books. Kids are in there on a daily basis. My own kids practically have grown up in there over the past 7 years or so. I mean, it's not like a regular bar. Breweries are not. It's a completely different culture. There are families that go from town to town in Michigan and take their kids to the various breweries. We serve root beer. We serve free root beer floats immediately following all of the music in the park events. So, I mean, to say that it is not family friendly, frankly, is a profound insult to me, because I have gone through great pains to make that place a place where families can go and where where minors can feel that they, can be and not be threatened by, drunks or et cetera. That's one of the reasons why we close down usually at 10 o'clock, but in the summer we stay open till 11. And we do that, because a lot of what I would call the bad drinking, the troublesome things occur after that period of time. What I'm really asking for, though, tonight, and I think that Justin Knepper kind of set the stage for it, all I'm asking is that this fencing be allowed to stay up after 10 p.m. Because before 10 p.m., as far as how the ordinances in this town are written, It is within my right to be there. The Michigan Liquor Control Commission has given me the go-ahead for that. The city ordinances that regulate outside activities and outside businesses, you've got Frank's Place, you've got Zorba's down the street further, you've got Bird's Eye Outfitters, they're all outside. I have to have a fence. Did I want a fence? A fence cost me over $500. It cost me, $600-700, right? Did I want to spend that money? No, I did not. But if you look from Marquette to Muskegon and practically every town in between, you are seeing outdoor seating. Another thing, Mrs. Johnston, you may be surprised to know that Johnson, I apologize, Mrs. Johnson, that 6 years ago, I actually, as a member of the City Commission, requested that I could have seating behind Sioux Brewing Company, and I was shot down in flames like I could not believe. Then, when we had the charrette of how to develop that area in that back alley, they drew pictures of, oh, this is Sioux Brewing Company, we can have seating out back. After I went to the bank and borrowed $400,000 to buy the only place in town that actually had legal outdoor seating, you may remember. And then once I did that, the go-ahead was given to the Palace that they could have outdoor seating and outdoor liquor, and I voted in favor of that because I'm in favor of business, and I think you all are in favor of business too. It is important to allow the Sioux to compete with other towns that offer these types of entertainment options, as mild as they may be. There's plenty of room on that sidewalk. I have sat there myself. There's no problem with handicap accessibility issues. The grate is gone. It's been paved over. And, once again, to reiterate, all I'm asking for is to be able to stay and keep that fencing up between 10 p.m. and the next business day, which there's very little traffic on that sidewalk at that time of day anyway. I mean, if you vote against the public use agreement, then I'm going to have to go out there every day and, pull the screws out and screw it back in for the open of business the next day, which, or I could maybe pay somebody to do that for me. But still, I consider that to be counterproductive. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you. Questions? Commissioner Baker.
I'm in huge support of this as far as letting them leave it out overnight, especially with the ordinance, the way it's written. There's little to no traffic between those times. So as far as moving forward though, I would hope that the DDA and the city, when especially looking at maybe possibly redoing Portage Street at some point down the future, we look at angle parking and bringing out our sidewalks more so our outdoor restaurants can have that space and we still have more room. Another idea would be our parking spaces on Portage Street are 20 feet long. Car needs 10 feet. And if we could utilize, restaurants could utilize a parking space rather than the sidewalk, that might alleviate some of the issues in the future, but that's down the road. But I think it's a necessity for our community to thrive and compete with other communities, like Mr. Bauer stated.
Commissioner Twardy.
Thank you. I understand that cobblestone is it is unsteady, and if we really ran into a money fall, I would say we should take out some of that streetscape, because when those bricks heave and they kind of adjust, and if you are unsteady on your feet, you can very easily go down. I've caught a toe on them before, so I completely sympathize with you. As far as the ordinance is concerned and keeping chairs and your whole fence out between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., I don't see a whole lot of traffic happening on the sidewalks either. And I agree that I want to see our cities thrive, but there are some concerns. This picture was taken today, And I can see that you have your sign placed in the wrong area, so probably just making sure that your employees are placing the sign like far enough so that you could. Go ahead. So that you can make sure that a wheelchair can get through there, or that the right amount of,
Actually,
I don't know, is this appropriate?
am I seeing that it's 45 inches from the pole to the, well, I mean, we can move the sign over,
Yeah,
that's
I
not
think
an
that was the
issue. I
only-
didn't put the
Yes.
sign in.
Right, I assume one of your employees probably
Sure,
did that.
they did.
So just make sure that they're over a little bit further, but, so, I mean, so I agree with the ordinance, and I'm fine with keeping it out overnight. But the cobblestones, I think we need to be really careful about the areas where we are allowing the fencing, that cobblestones are placed properly, and making sure that if there is some heaved bricks, that we are going back over there, and, because the last thing you want is to somebody bobble on there and get hurt.
Okay, Commissioner Talentino, or Commissioner, okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna kind of add to what Commissioner Baker had said. When we were in Holland last year, that was one of the things that I noticed, is they had a lot of outdoor seating. And what they had done is they had actually created bump outs where they had the outdoor seating and eliminated the parking out in front. And by doing that, they went to the angled parking. I guess my question is that if obviously we can't afford to do that right now, but is it possible when we do seating like we're doing at Sioux Brewing, that we take those cobblestones out and actually put some pavement in there, maybe to make it a little bit more accessible to go around, like the sidewalk type of a thing? I don't know if that's a possibility, but
I was also wondering that, if you could make it smoother, because cobblestones, I agree with Mrs. Johnson and Commissioner Twardy, that they are uneven at times, so that, I know they wouldn't be as, I would think the DDA would have an easier time plowing if they weren't, if it wasn't all cobblestone, but it's just a thought.
and I don't
Just a
think you have to
thought.
take out all the cobblestone,
No.
just enough to have enough, as far as whatever path you would need. So if you took out half of it from the fence to the curb, at least you're kind of staying on the path. Kind of like the yellow brick
Yeah.
road, right? You're
Yeah.
following it, and
Idea. Commissioner Talentino?
Could I get that photo put back up there really quick, please?
Yes, there it is.
Are those numbers correct, or are the ones that all of us are seeing on our laptops correct? Because our laptops are showing 8 feet, not 12.6, and 5 feet, not 6.6. So are those correct, or what we have is correct?
Justin, could you answer that?
I neglected to mention that the numbers that I submitted for the packet were numbers that were from our original design. When there was the discussion about it, we had said we need at least this much minimum. Today, this morning, I had a maintenance guy go out and measure specifically what was there after Ray has installed it, and so the ones on the screen are the correct ones. There's actually much more space, except between the poles, there's much more space than we had anticipated.
Okay, so the numbers we see are not correct, but those ones are.
Yes,
Okay.
and my apologies for not bringing that up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Do we have a motion? Commissioner Baker?
I'll make a motion to authorize city administration to develop and execute a private use agreement with Sioux Brewing Company for presented purposes.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Talentino,
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy,
Yes.
Mayor Vasmus,
Yes.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins,
yes.
Commissioner Gary,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Item 4 is from Mr. Jason McLeod, request to remove sidewalks.
Thank you. City Manager Turner.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, would you like me to present, or Mr. McLeod to present?
Oh, I'm
first?
sorry. No, come on up here. Come on up, Jason. I automatically go to the city manager, but is this your item? Why don't you introduce yourself for the record and...
Jason McLeod, nice
Thank
to
you.
see you all again. It's going to be a tough act to follow. So I've got sidewalk that I'd like to remove, 170 feet of it. Both sides on Pine Street and on Brown Street. I think Oliver may have included a picture in a packet to you guys. But the sidewalks kind of go to nowhere. They're underutilized. There's driveways blocking them up on the Pine Street side, including a parking structure that I have on the top. So, simple thing, just looking to get rid of it so that I can turn it into usable yard space and angle it. Already brought in trees around it, so just looking to utilize it better.
Just a comment, I did drive by there, and you've done an excellent job on the landscaping around the park area and on some of the properties you have, and I noticed the sidewalks. Every sidewalk is overgrown for the most part. Some sidewalks you can't see because of the vegetation. You know, all of a sudden it's gone, but you know the sidewalk's there because at the other end, there's a little space you can see some cement. But it seems that what you're doing, and I understand you own all the property that you would be removing the sidewalk from.
Yes, sir.
Or your dad through the rental agreement.
Oh, he's one down. We don't
okay, so
acknowledge him.
You're doing very well, young man. And that neighborhood is coming back and looking very well, and I think we said that before. You know, good luck to you. You spent a lot of your own money in this whole process, and I don't have any problem. I know we're all about walkability, and if these sidewalks are gone, they're probably not going to be back for a very long time, if ever. But at the same point, how you've owned the property and what you're planning to do with it, it seems like a decent, excellent idea.
I appreciate it. We've got a sidewalk in front of my house also, and that sidewalk is used constantly.
Okay.
Reason being the Pine Street sidewalk and the other end of Brown Street, no one goes around that corner. There's no destination. It's hill. I'm just going to walk up the hill to walk back down it. Like, I mean, everyone's figured that out, so they just use the sidewalk in front of my place. So one of the other problems that we have is the sidewalk on Pine Street without the parking. They can walk right up to your car and look in it. You can't really tell them to go away. They're on you're technically parked illegally. So I'm going to try and fix that also by defining the driveways, removing people's reasons to be places where they shouldn't really be.
Great. Thank you. Commissioner Twardy.
Yeah, so just a few questions, so just so I can make, and I think you're doing a great job in there, absolutely. But just so I can make a mental picture, so the sidewalks that you're wanting to remove, are they around the gazebo area?
No.
They're right in front of homes?
Nope. There's a big open expanse on the other side of the greenhouse where the gazebo side is.
Yep.
That expanse is just sidewalk that leads to nowhere.
Okay.
Right.
And it stops.
It used to lead to in front of the greenhouse, but then it's like, okay, well, where do pedestrians go? Now we're in the road, you know.
Okay.
So none of the sidewalks on that island make too much sense. The other neighbors want to have it gone, but I'm like, already paid for your tree removal, not paying for your sidewalk removal. You're going to have to go in and get all that done.
Yeah, so then I guess that goes to the next question. Do we run into any sort of issues with private and public right of use with removing city sidewalks for private use? And does he have to replace them? Because a certain length of a driveway is supposed to have a sidewalk, and I know if they're shorter than a certain distance, you're not required to have a sidewalk. And
City Manager?
Thank you for that question, Commissioner. That is not something that I'm aware of or came across during researching this topic.
okay, so you don't see any problems with him pulling out city sidewalks and just landscaping over them like they didn't exist?
Right, so I would imagine that if there were users who frequented the sidewalks on a regular basis, that would generate problems. But in this instance, as represented by Mr. McLeod, the sidewalks do not appear to lead to a final destination other
Okay.
than his property.
I just want to make sure, like, going, like, when we look back in the notes 10 years from now, and we're like, well, why in the heck did we take these sidewalks out? Now we just got to put them back in.
Because you have a history of making great decisions.
We do, yeah. So, yep, that's it. I just wanted to make sure there was no issues with legal.
Commissioner Talentino.
I'd just like to commend you on what you're doing up there. I stopped the other day. Looked like he needed a break. He was planting trees, and he and I took about a 30-minute walk, and I had him show me what his plans are, which ones he wanted removed, and what he was doing. And I hope it's contagious. I seriously hope what you're doing is contagious in our community, and other renters do a third of what you're doing. Our jobs are going to be a lot easier up here. So I want to thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Wait for Commissioner Miller to come back in a second. Then we'll have a motion.
Good. I'll just back away.
Thank you, Jason. City Manager, you have any additional comments?
Nothing further. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Oh, let's get it one. Let's go Commissioner Talentino.
I'd like to make a motion to allow Mr. McLeod to remove approximately 170 feet of city sidewalk.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Twardy?
Yes.
Mayor Bosmas?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Item number, letter G, City Manager's Report.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 1 under the City Manager's Report would provide for the award of a bid for 2 2019 police patrol vehicles. As commissioners are aware, the City Commission approved $70,000 in the 19 fiscal year stock and equipment budget for the purchase and equipping of 2 new police patrol vehicles. The request for bids for these vehicles was published and the bid opening occurred in the clerk's office at 4 p.m. on July 11th. Signature Ford in Owasso, Michigan bid $28,328 per vehicle. Sioux Motors bid $28,634 per vehicle. Being within 3% as prescribed by the local advantage policy, Sioux Motors was given the option of meeting the lower Signature Ford price, and Sioux Motors agreed to match the price. Both vehicles to be purchased would be 2019 Ford Interceptor SUVs. Accordingly, I would recommend that the City Commission award the bid for the 2 2019 Ford Interceptor SUVs to Sioux Motors in the amount of $56,656 as presented. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Miller.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move that we award the bid for the 2019 Ford Public Interceptor SUVs to Sioux Motors in the amount of $56,656.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported for the police Ford Interceptors. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mayor Bosmas?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino?
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Item 2 under the City Manager's Report would provide for the award of a bid for 2 pickup trucks for the Department of Public Works. As commissioners are aware, in the current fiscal year, the Public Works Department budgeted for the purchase of 2 pickup trucks as scheduled replacements. The trucks to be replaced are a 2000 Dodge in the Parks Department and a 2007 Ford in the Water Department. Both trucks are at the end of their lifespans and in poor condition. A request for bids for vehicle replacements was advertised on the city's website and in the evening news. In addition, previous bidders of vehicles were sent individual bid packets. On July 12th, 4 bids were opened publicly in the clerk's office, with the low bidder meeting primary specifications being O'Connor's of Pickford, Michigan, at a cost of $23,715 per pickup for a total of $47,430 for both trucks. Adequate funding is in place as $27,000 has been budgeted for each truck purchase. Accordingly, I would recommend that the City Commission authorize the purchase of 2 pickups from O'Connor's of Pickford, Michigan, for a total of $47,430, being low bidder meeting primary specifications. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Gary.
Make a motion to award the bid for the purchase of 2 2019 Dodge pickup trucks from O'Connor's of Pickford, Michigan, for the total price of $47,430, being low bidder meeting specifications.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Are there any questions? Commissioner Twardy.
Thank you. So whenever we buy new equipment, especially any sort of DPW equipment, is there any way that there's a leftover one that we can give to the DDA?
Certainly that's something that we will review. Absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino?
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy?
Yes.
Mayor Bosmas?
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you.
Item 3 under City Manager's Report would provide for the release of a request for proposals for the reuse of the former water treatment facility adjacent to Sherman Park. As commissioners are aware, located immediately adjacent to Sherman Park, The city's former water treatment plant operated between the early 1900s and early 1990s when it was replaced by the city's currently operating water treatment plant. As the former plant was abandoned in place, it contains all of the equipment, motors, and piping, making it an attractive opportunity for reuse. Combined with the building's unique architecture, city administration is optimistic that an interested party can be found to facilitate the adaptive reuse and restoration of the building. Accordingly, the included request for proposals has been drafted for the City Commission's consideration. Based upon its location adjacent to Sherman Park and the St. Mary's River, the facility is well situated for reuse as a restaurant, brew pub, or a similar type of use which can take advantage of the site's unique location. Accompanying the narrative portion of the RFP is a condition report prepared by Robert Tracy of Source Restoration Engineering, which details the building's restorative needs. It is the intent of City Administration to include this report when the RFP is released to give potential respondents accurate information as to the building's condition if approved by the City Commission. It is recommended the RFP be released for a period of 6 weeks. If approved for release, responses would be due back on September 17th at 4 p.m. It should be noted that if the property were to be sold, a rezoning to a zoning designation such as tourist would be desirable to accommodate a variety of commercial uses. Accordingly, I would recommend the City Commission authorize the release of the request for proposals as presented for the reuse of the former water pumping station, with responses being due back to the city by 4 p.m. on September 17th. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Commissioner Collins.
Make a motion to approve the release request proposal as presented with response due back before 4 p.m. September 17, 2018.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved, supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino?
Yes.
Commissioner Tuarty?
Yes.
Mayor Bosphus?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
And item 4 under the City Manager's report, providing for the adoption of Parking Bureau policies. As commissioners may be aware, City Administration has been conducting research into how the operations and policy framework of the Parking Bureau can be improved. In furtherance of these efforts, as City Manager, I issued a policy on July 18th indicating that disputes of parking tickets must be reduced to writing, with any tickets under dispute not being acted upon and being removed from the automated mailing system for payment until acted upon by a newly created Parking Policy Committee. The Parking Policy Committee consists of myself, the City Attorney, and DDA Director, and reviews issues involving ticket billing, the implementation and administration of the permit system, meter violations, permit violations, and policy development. Thereafter, several policies were developed by the Parking Policy Committee for consideration by the City Commission in order to promote citizen service and clarify existing practices within the scope of established ordinance provisions. Policies include a restated process for reviewing the voiding of tickets by the City Attorney for individuals who purchase a permit and forget to display it, and a reaffirmation of the process through which one written warning can be received within a rolling 12-month period for parking violations except for parking in a fire lane or handicap spot. Additionally, a reaffirmation that the City Attorney must void tickets even if issued in error. As well, an established process for enforcing parking in a fire lane, and a flexible policy that an individual who's purchased a permit in the previous year who receives a ticket after failing to renew their permit can receive a warning instead of a ticket if that individual purchases a permit within 10 calendar days of receiving the ticket. As well, a restatement that the DDA Director serves as the administrator of the Parking Bureau in a manner that will complement and not diminish the authorities of the City Manager over the Bureau currently contained within the ordinance. And finally, a policy that employees of the Parking Bureau are required to adhere to the citizen service philosophy. As noted previously, the establishment of these policies is intended to further enhance the operational framework of the Parking Bureau, clarify and establish policies for the public and employees, and enhance citizen service. Accordingly, it would be my recommendation that the City Commission approve the various Parking Bureau policies as presented. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Commissioner Tuarty.
Make a motion to approve the various Parking Bureau policies as presented.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino?
Yes.
Commissioner Tuarty?
Yes.
Mayor Bosphus?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
That concludes the City Manager's report. Thank you, Mayor and Commission.
Okay, thank you. Item number H, status report.
Thank you,
City
Mayor.
Manager.
First item under status reports is a reminder regarding the Blue Ribbon Finance Committee application process. And as noted, a reminder that during the July 16th meeting, the City Commission authorized the solicitation of letters of interest from community members who may wish to serve on the Blue Ribbon Finance Committee. As a reminder, the purpose of the committee is to provide an avenue through which the city, its partners, its employees, and citizens and property owners can proactively position the community for future growth, wealth creation, and vibrancy in the headwinds of the state of Michigan's broken municipal finance system. Those individuals interested in serving on this committee can submit a written letter of interest and a board and commission application to the city clerk's office by Friday, August 27th at 4 p.m. I certainly appreciate if anybody has an interest, they're welcome to reach out to the city clerk's office or the city manager's office. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The commission have any questions? Manager? Okay, thank you. Next item.
Second item under status reports is a presentation from EDC Executive Director Holt regarding an upcoming ribbon cutting.
Okay. Good evening, Jeff.
Good evening, Mayor, Commission. Thank you very much for this opportunity. As I've said in the past, our Smart Zone is full, and we are very pleased to witness some very nice growth in one of our newest partners in our community, and it's Osprey Technologies. And they are a firm that are out of Tempe, Arizona, and they had wished to move back here, and they have an engineering firm, and they wanted to come back home. And they visited the area, in the Tri-County area, and decided that Sault Ste. Marie was their choice. And we're very pleased about that. Like I said earlier, it's an engineering firm that specializes in design, application, analysis, and fabrication of composite structures, basically plastics and that kind of material. We're now going to have an open house on Monday, August 13th, and I'd like to pass around some invitations to everyone, and it'd be great if you could all attend. May I?
Sure. I was just writing it down, but he's got an actual invite. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
That's great news. Until you get them all passed out, you can keep speaking. Okay, great news.
And I've got extras. If anybody in the audience would like to attend, please stop by. It's up on Meridian Street, 2345 Meridian Street. Even I can remember that. Same place where we vote. Hey, Robin. And also, just briefly, we do have a new employee in our operation, and it's Sarah Shepard, and she just started. She's sitting right over with her husband, Rob.
Oh, okay.
Welcome, Sarah.
Welcome, Sarah.
And also, I'd be remiss without mentioning that the Small Business and Development Center has helped get Osprey on the right foot, thanks to Josh for his efforts in their capacity as well.
Gosh, great. And it's all about growing wealth in our community, and I know this commission and previous commissions have been working very hard along with the administration and many people sitting in the room here on doing just that, because manufacturing actually grows wealth because they create a product which becomes sold. The more manufacturing we have, as we increase those numbers of employment opportunities, the better off we all are in the city of Sault Ste. Marie and Eastern UP. So continue the good work.
Thank you. And they just hired a recent Lake State grad full-time to operate the machine. Yeah. So they're off to a good start.
Yeah. Great.
Thank you.
Okay. City Manager.
That concludes the status report section of the agenda. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we go to item number I, matters presented by the public. Is there anyone in the audience like to make comment at this time? Let's go to Commission. This gentleman right here. Sure. Okay. Mark. If you'd introduce yourself, we'd appreciate it.
So my name is Mark Miners, just a local city resident and an avid dog walker. I walk my dog 3 times a day, 7 days a week. And what I'm really running into, and it's been the last couple of years, is the trees that are overgrown and shrubs that are overgrown, blocking the sidewalks that and especially at nighttime, when you don't see a limb and it's smacking you in the face, or you've got to step off. I'm just wondering, is there anyone we contact, or I try to find different paths, but every path I go, run into the same problem.
If it's a private tree, I'm not sure, but the city trees, I've mentioned that to the city manager already. The city owns a number of trees that, especially along the walkway here, in front of the building, that
This
have
is
grown
more
so much.
residential over on Kimball Street, right around in there.
City manager, we have any comment about residents,
Uh,
sidewalks?
Certainly, in these types of situations, you're more than welcome to contact my office, and specific locations can help administration drill down to specific actions that might be required at that location. But certainly, the overgrowth on sidewalks, tree limbs, those are issues of concern, and certainly we'd welcome that input for remediation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Craig?
Good evening, Commission, Mayor. It's with great pleasure that I say that we've been funded at Osborne. You saw the newspaper article. We got a call on July 20th. It's a verbal. There's written follow-up. But as you remember, we've all worked hard. I want to thank this commission. I want to thank the former commission that supported us, the DDA, the city staff. Everybody came together to make sure that we had the best application possible. Next week, Monday, the 13th at 5 o'clock, Earl Pileski will be here on site where Osborne Commons will be built. He wants to make a presentation to the city leadership, a check. It's not a real check, just a photo op, but reflecting the total development cost, which is going to be $13.6 million invested down on Ridge and Osborne Boulevard. Also in attendance will be our design team. David Cooper, one of the owners of the Woda Cooper Companies, and I hope everybody can attend. So one thing I wanted to present is an updated portfolio that shows the Woda Cooper Companies. I'll give it to the mayor, then maybe the city manager can keep it. And I'd like it passed around. It's a reference. And since this is a mixed use with commercial and residential, you'll see several of the developments in our 15-state area that will show the quality of the build. And the next step will be that our team will get with your team, Mayor. We'll start working toward the 40% plans. One of the things we want to keep in mind is Maloney's Alley, how we want to work with your staff to put in the street lights that may work both ways, not only on our development but also on the alley. And there'll be meetings forthcoming to do that. Commissioner Miller made a comment in an earlier that he was concerned about security, and we're going to do our best with your staff to make sure that we work together on that. So once again, thank you all. We're excited. We're hoping that we can be permitted by March next year so that when the snow is all gone, hopefully by April, that we can get started with demolition and get started on the foundations, etc. So with that, thank you again. I can field any questions if anybody has any.
Any questions? Just congratulations, and certainly we're looking forward to the $13+ million development of new housing and some available retail space on Osborne Boulevard and along Maloney's Alley area. It's the first project in that whole large tract of land that we did a shred. I think we all remember the shred that we spent days talking about certain things in that area, and this is a start, and hopefully it's not the end. Looking forward to more development in the area, but certainly thanks to the Woda Group for their perseverance.
Thank you.
Okay, good luck. Anyone else? Sure, Tim? Justin, you're going to be last. Okay.
My name is Tim Grabowski. I live in the 100 block of West 10th Avenue. I have been emailing back and forth with Mr. Oliver since he started his job on street reconstruction. It was going for it. It was canceled due to problems of design work, and it was not, it's done. A survey was sent out. 8 out of 10 people said they didn't want it done because they didn't want to pay the high taxes, but who does? You have city employees that don't want to drive down my street. You have snowplow drivers that get bounced out of their snowplow trucks in the winter because of dips and rotting pavement. My snowblower and lawnmower don't like pavement chunks. It is now a liability safety issue. 3 weeks ago, I was out front. I happened to witness a young man in a car turn onto my street and almost lost control and hit a parked car. All I could think about was, what if it lost control and hit a kid or a person? You don't want to fix it. You now make the city liable. Please, I request one thing. Each and every one of you, in the next day or two, drive down West 10th Avenue and take a look.
What block is it?
And you're going to say, you're going to say, I can swear it, holy crap, how did this project ever get canceled? We are talking safety here.
Is it West 10th, is it the first block off of
100 block
off
of
of
West
Ashland?
10th Avenue.
Okay, yeah, that is,
And if I wouldn't have witnessed it, I wouldn't be here tonight. But if something happened and somebody got hurt, I would not be able to live with myself if I didn't say something to you.
that is,
Please take a look at it.
that is the corner where Lake Superior State University just was donated
Yeah.
the properties?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a terrible street, I can tell you that.
Okay?
Sure.
Please take a ride down and look at the liability you have put yourselves into. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Justin?
I just quickly wanted to mention or a couple of festivals that are happening this week. Tomorrow is the Sioux Summer Arts Festival. It's been traditionally happening at City Hall grounds. Last year it was at Lake State. This year it will be on Portage between Ashman and Osborne. Tomorrow at 6 a.m. we'll be closing down that stretch of Portage, and there will be about 60 or 70 vendors. Many of them are already in town, so make sure you come out and support. That's organized by the Sioux Area Arts Council. That'll be a great event. And Saturday is Maloney's Michigan Beer Fest in the same exact stretch of Portage from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. So there will be the road closure that morning as we set up for that event. And finally, just because I was reading Sue Anson Raves, and I shouldn't have maybe, but I made it on there. Sidewalk sales happened on Friday and Saturday, and so for the public, I just wanted to say, read all the comments, and we want to do bigger and better next year while keeping in mind all the various businesses and people downtown and all the different folks that are involved. But I will promise that we'll bring back at least some component of kids and family activities for people on Facebook. So thank you.
Don't go too far, because I was going to mention the sidewalk sales and the car show and how busy it seemed to be, and a lot of people walking sidewalks and the areas where the parked cars couldn't park. It seemed like it worked pretty well for the amount of people, and the businesses, I understand, were pretty happy. So you may just give a...
Sure. Yeah, the more, I mean, we're actually going to be doing, because it was such a drastic change, I would say that maybe people that were accustomed to so much of the tradition of having, some of the bouncy castles, the dunk tanks, the petting zoos, a lot of that, it was, this year especially, it wasn't that we weren't trying to bring those components in, it was that there was so much competition for some reason on August 3rd and 4th. Pickford, I think, had an event, or Rudyard, Rogers City, Curtis, all sorts of communities decided to compete with sidewalk sales, and so we had a number of vendors that couldn't make it. But we were looking at having, some of our side parking lots, side streets more active, and that just didn't happen this year, and that's on me, and I want to make sure that those things come back. But in terms of what I heard overall from businesses, on average, most businesses were equal in terms of their sales or up a little bit, besides a handful that I would say it's mostly based on the blocks that have lost some of our businesses and have vacancies in those blocks. So very interesting. I'm hoping to hear back from a lot of businesses with real kind of scientific numbers.
I believe the car show was very successful.
I heard a lot of
the
people were happy
site.
that were in the car show that were down on Water Street. Definitely big changes, but I'm hoping people can bear with us as we test things out a little bit.
All right. Any, Commissioner Tuardi?
Yeah, I was just going to make a comment before you brought it up. Going on to rants and raves is never a good thing, but sometimes you got to see what's being said. So yeah, I reached out to a bunch of business owners too, and everybody was very pleased with the actual numbers of business. And because I felt like people were coming into the stores a lot more. I know it's not the giant block party that we all kind of remember, but when we remember, you weren't here, but when we remember back in the 80s and the early 90s, there was a lot more retail down on Ashman Street, and there's not a lot of retail anymore. And so you have giant voided areas where, you know, where Woolworths and Kresge's and JCPenney's used to be, and now there's not. So making sure that the business owners are getting the business, but also making sure that there's family fun in agreement. We were up way over. We haven't done that well in sidewalk sales since Steve and I bought the store, and Harmony Health Foods, I don't mean we. So we were very pleased with the street staying open. People were actually coming into the store, and I've heard from other people in the community that that's what they were doing. They were walking into the stores and actually talking to the store owners. So learning curves. We will bring some of the other stuff back, and I can see utilizing a lot of the pocket parks and the side streets, I think, is a great idea. But, you know, hopefully keeping most of Ashman Street open just for ease of convenience.
Yeah, we'll be having some meetings on it and definitely continuing to work on it. And just on the topic of, because there's a lot of people that are concerned about the state of, I would say, our vacancy rate on Ashman Street. That's something that the Downtown Development Board is working on all the time, looking at businesses that we can recruit, bring in, and I think we're just in a little bit of a period right now where there's some change going on, and we'll be back healthy and full soon. So we're actively working on it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Item J, matters presented by the City Commission. City Commission. Okay, K, Commissioner Gary.
I move we adjourn this meeting.
Support.
They move supported. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much. We are adjourned.